I've been working on this app on my Mac. It's called macOS Agentsmith. It's on my GitHub. It's really not ready for production, but it's an app that I was making that lets me sort of connect any models I want from, so I've got all the providers. I've got OpenAI and Anthropic and DeepSeek and I don't know, like 20 of them, Hugging Face and whatever, OpenRouter, a whole bunch of others. And my original thought, well, when I had first started making it, it was to try to see if I can get something good, reliable-ish, but using cheaper open source models instead of the ever getting more expensive frontier models. But that ended up pivoting to more of a, can I get reliably safe, useful results out of the thing? So, like if I have a task and it's sort of set up as, you can tell the thing it makes a task. And, one of the things right now is you use your LLM and you tell it to do a thing, and it's got whatever tools available that it comes with, plus maybe if you've added an MCP server to, I've got one for driving Xcode, for example. But if you watch them, most of the time they're using bash, typing things in the terminal, lots of bash. And, bash is very powerful because you can type anything there and you can run programs and write programs and download things and install software and surf the web and everything from the terminal. But it's also, that means you can do all those things. And there's really no limits. And, so I had set mine up so that when it goes to create a new task, you say, hey, go do this for me. I want you to fix this bug in this app or whatever. Or maybe I want you to go, research other instances of AI models behaving badly so I can talk about it on a podcast. Whatever the case is. You tell it what you want. It writes a nice description for the task and sort of like steps that should be followed probably, and what sort of measurable outcomes you're looking for. Like, okay, I want to have a file that says this, or I want to be able to prove that the bug is fixed. When I run this test, it should turn green, and you should not edit the test. The test isn't changeable. You have to just change the code, right? But then before it runs, so it writes the task, and then it goes to sort of a security agent that says, what are all the tools we have available, including bash and other ones? And then now, what is sort of the minimum set that we could use that will most likely be able to still accomplish the task? And then the agent that actually does the work only sees the subset of tools. So in some cases, like if I was doing like fixing a bug in a iOS app, it doesn't need bash for that. Not really. It can read file, it can write file, it can edit, it can build the software, it can run it in a simulator, it can get a screenshot, it can do all that stuff without bash. So most likely that system will say, okay, we're not giving it access to bash, it doesn't need it. But it'll say, it needs this one, this one, this one, this one. And then when the agent model is running, the way these get their work done is by making these tool calls, the calling functions essentially that perform actions like read the file. For each one of those, it also will go to a security agent again that'll look at it and say, okay, it wants to call this tool. What does this tool do? Let me look at its description. What arguments is it passing to this tool? And now, how does that relate to the task at hand? Because it'll have the information about the task, the information about the tool, and what's trying to be called. And it'll say, hey, yeah, this is fine. Perfect. Do it. Or it'll say, no, unsafe, block it. Or there's also like a middle area where it'll say, it's kind of a warning where it'll say, I'm going to temporarily block you, but you should maybe find a better way to do this. This might be risky because ABC, but if you really need to do that exact way, you can do it again. And then it tries to, also kind of enforce the user's intent. So it's looking for things that are unsafe, like delete my hard drive, but it's also looking for things like, hey, you're supposed to be working on this iOS app. Why are you trying to search for API keys on my system? And would block that because that's, okay, well, it's a read-only operation, so it's safe. But why do you need to do that to do the to do the task at hand. And then this is, and that has been the security side of things. And I think that's absolutely critical to have something like that. And then now at the end of the task, I've got like a validator that'll look at the task requirements and look at what was done and the evidence sort of presented and say, is this done? Yes or no? Sort of check the items off. As you can imagine, with all these little things talking to each other, it's not the fastest in the world. Although a bunch of that does get parallelized. Maybe mine's not the best tool, but I think a tool like this is kind of what you need. Claude added like Claude Code added the auto approve permission thing. I don't know, a couple months ago, maybe. It was actually after I was working on this, but anyway, which is great because it mostly prevents you from having to answer 400 permission prompts, but also it can still go off the path of what the task was and still do other things that aren't relevant. And, but I think, kind of coming back to the OpenAI thing, the frontier models are great. Some of these Chinese models are also great. And I don't know where this ends up.
I think listening to your tool, this what was it called? Agent Smith on your Mac?
Agent Smith, macOS Agent Smith. Yes, might rename that, but yeah, that's what it is.
I like it. The idea of not just predicting the next token, predicting the outcome, and so you have your 3 different agents or however many different agents saying the ultimate end game, the ultimate goal is this. Is each step along the way proceeding towards that goal, or are we getting off track? Is that is it kind of the goal?
Right. Yeah. So it's supposed to try to keep it on track, keep it safe. And because basically it says, hey, the task description is your source of truth for what the user's intent is. And so we should be working towards that goal. And then there's also some other pieces in there that, you should not break laws, not do anything that's going to harm the user's data or other people's things. And so some sort of broad general things like that, because there's a section about user's intent is best expressed by the task description. There's also the user's best interest, which might not be the same as the user's intent.
Okay. Do you plan on releasing this tool to the public, or is it, or as a product, or? So
it's open source currently. So it's anyone can go download it and run it. And I did, I think, one GitHub release like a long time ago. I was actually sort of working up to another one. I realized I had no onboarding at all, and you have to configure all these separate little agents correctly. So I was like, well, we need to make that easier. So that's what I've been working on recently, and it's almost there. So yeah, I'll do a release pretty soon.
Nice. That sounds like a good tool, nice tool to check and double check.
Hopefully it's getting there. Like it's to the point now where I'm using it for some things instead of only working on the tool, So I feel like that's a sign that I'm getting closer to something that's maybe okay.